University of Wrocław in Poland. I don't know if I say Wrocław correctly. So like she in her career works on social behavior and collective movement on spider and fish mainly. And today she is not here to present her research, but somehow something that is part of her research, that is a tool that she developed to track animal behavior in the most easy way possible and the most user-friendly possible. So a software that is called AnimalTA. So Violette, like the floor is yours. You can present your software.
Perfect. Thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you everyone for being here listening to me. So I don't wait anymore. So AnimalTA is a tracking software. I think there is no big surprise in that. But I'd like to present a bit more what it is. So as Alexis said, AnimalTA has been thought to be very accessible. So it's a program that the whole objective of the program is to make something that's accessible to everyone. For this reason, the program is open source. It's also completely free, and we try to make it as user-friendly as possible. Moreover, we try to make a program that's very generalistic, so it can work with very wide range of organisms. You can see here that you can track from cells to big mammals without problem. And well, just in a few information regarding the program, it's quite recent. It's been released for the first time in the beginning of this year. It has been published in Methods in Ecology and Evolution in the May of this year too. And to give you an idea, for the moment, 5 minutes before the beginning of this talk, we had 1,000 and almost 100 downloads through the world. And so this is a map of the downloads. So we succeed, I believe, to get also a program that's really for everyone and not only located in some special countries. But let's hope it will continue like this. One question that I had when I was developing the program is just, why are you doing that? Because it's true that there are already a lot of tracking programs. It's not the first one, far from that. And it's probably not the last, I hope so. But everyone is telling me, but it's a nonsense. There is so many tracking programs. We don't need more. And that's the point I disagree with, because the thing that it's true, there are a lot of programs and there are a lot of very efficient and very good programs. But I had the feeling, and that's why AnimalTA was born, that most of the programs, of course not all of them, but most of them were missing to consider our daily hurdles as researchers. Because some of us had the chance to get the time and the resources to learn how to code. But it's not the case of all researchers. And time for researcher is very precious. So you cannot invest so many time in learning a whole new competence if you're not even sure that this will help you for your research. So we cannot ask to all the researchers on the planet to learn how to code because they need to do a tracking. So the idea is that to propose a program in which you absolutely don't need to code. Another limitation that I find with a lot of programs is that they don't consider the fact that as researcher, we need a lot of replicates. A lot of replicates means that we need to do the same video, or similar videos in a high amount. And sometimes also, mainly if you're working with invertebrates, you do what we call the multi-arena. So in the same video, you will record several replicates. And so this is very important, and it's very common to work that way. But a lot of programs does not really are adapted to the specificity of our work. Another thing that's often annoying for people, so as I said, I wanted this program to be accessible. So it also imply not not need to make very complex and expensive setup. So we cannot all have 4K videos with incredible memory card with incredible resolution, and often, well, we cannot record in the perfect situation. So there is also the idea that AnimalTA would allow even people who have not good video, who are not able to record in good condition for budget reason, but it can be also because of the protocol itself. Sometimes you need a change in luminosity, for instance, because this is what your experiment is about. Another thing that we wanted to add in this program is the possibility to easily correct this kind of problem. In a lot of programs, once again, not all of them, hopefully, but in a lot of programs, it's very complex to correct the mistake of the program. If the tracking was not perfect the first time, you need a lot of time to correct all that. And so we tried with AnimalTA to make this a simple and easy step. Finally, we believed it was very important to make a program that was able to do personalized analysis, because we are not all working with the same problematic, we're not working with the same species, we're not working with the same protocol. So it's quite important that everyone is able to create his own analysis. So now I will try to explain a bit how the program solved the different points I presented before. So the first one is the number of replicate that we need to work with a lot of video and sometimes with several individuals per video. So the program, the way it's working, is not working by video, is working by project. So when you begin AnimalTA, you will create a project in which you can store as much as video as you want. In reality, there is probably a limit in the number of video, which will depend on the power of the computer you are using. But in my case, for instance, I tried with up to 1,000 of videos without problem. So, well, you can store at least a very high number of video inside a project. The other point is that everywhere AnimalTA, so you can see here, sorry, not working here, it's working. So you can see here that for all the parameters of each video, so this is a project, and you can see that there is one video per row. And for each parameter that you set for one video, you have always this button apply to other videos. Meaning that if all your videos are recorded in the same condition, which is something that's quite common when you are doing science because you are doing replicates, so you usually don't move your camera between recording, for instance, well, you can use this apply to other video buttons, and this way you just in fact do the parameter only once for the first video and then just say, okay, the same for all the others, and you don't lose time with that. But still, we also know that even if you try to get the perfect condition all the time and to replicate it exactly the same way, there might be some differences between your video that are not volunteer, or for some reason, let's imagine someone turn on the light and it makes a reflection that was not here in the other video. Then you might need to have one video that's a little bit different, that needs different parameters. And so once you apply your parameters to everyone, you can still go back and do case-by-case videos to change and to adapt your parameters, that the parameters you need for each individual video. So you can both work fast with a lot of videos, but also do case-by-case if needed. Sorry, you can also treat all the videos. When I say treat here is do the tracking. So when you are ready, when all your videos are ready, you can do the tracking for all of them in a row. So you don't need to be here and do the first one, then the first one finished, and do the second one, and the second one finished. Now you just can select all of them and say do the tracking for all of them, even if they have different parameters, even if they are not the same duration, and so on. Another problem that for me is often frustrating with some programs is the fact that sometimes you need a very particular kind of video format of video. And it is generally not the format you get from your camera. So you first need to install a converter, a video converter, which is not that easy to find if you want one free, which will not leave a watermark in the middle of your video. So you can already invest quite a lot of time just to find the program itself. Then you need to wait for the conversion. So to avoid this problem in AnimalTA, the converter is already part of the program. So you can add whatever kind of video, and AnimalTA will convert it itself. It also allows for concatenation. So when you have very long videos that are cut in little pieces by your camera, you can just put them together from inside AnimalTA. You can also play with the frame rate. So if you were recording with a high frame rate, you can change it. And you can do your own cropping from inside the program, which from my point of view is quite useful, because when you do experiment, it's quite common to add a few seconds after the real end of the experiment and to add a few seconds before to ensure that you really recorded the whole video. But then when you do the tracking, you don't want these supplementary seconds. So you have the possibility from inside the program to do your own cropping. And you have a visual feedback of the video, so you can directly see when you want your video to begin. You go to it and say, this is the beginning, do the same for the end. But you can also just write. If you know how much time your video, at which moment your video you want to begin, you can also write, I want 60 seconds, that the beginning is at 60 seconds, you write and it's done. Same for duration. So, and once again, you can apply that to all the others videos. So that's also a way, I believe, to work faster than if you have to install another program that do the cropping before. Now, to improve the recording conditions, so as I said, we cannot have the perfect setup each time. So we have several little tools. I'm afraid I don't have time to explain how they work technically, but I will still present them rapidly. So we have some tools that will allow to improve the video that are recorded in difficult situations. The first one, for instance, is the possibility to correct for tremors. So you see here on the left, there was a problem with this recording because someone hit the table on which the experiment was done. So the camera moved, you see all these tremors. And so with the program, you can just correct that, and the program will take into account the tremors, fix it. So tremors are problematic for two reasons. The first one is that it can just destroy your tracking because the program will consider that the arenas, for instance, themselves are the tracked target. But it has also another problem. Even if it doesn't make a problem for the tracking itself, it will create fake values, because the moment that your video is moved, well, the program considers that in fact it's the individual who is moving, when it's not the case. So that's why it's quite important to correct this kind of tremors. Another option is a possibility to correct for changes in the lighting. So you have here an example. So it's video that's been taken in the wild, I mean in the field more than in the wild. You can see here from the left part that there is a lot of change in luminosity due to probably the clouds that are going in front of the sun, and that you have an option to correct that and to avoid such strong change in luminosity from inside the program. A last one is the possibility to correct for perspective deformation, because sometimes we just cannot put the camera really on the top of our arena. Sometimes also the camera themselves are inducing a deformation of the image. So with this tool, you can correct for this kind of problem, and the same, so your trajectories will be also corrected in a correct way. Then I also said that correction of the trackings is something often difficult, so we worked also a lot on that part. So the first thing that we wanted to do is that once the tracking is finished, you can have from inside the program a direct visual feedback of what happened. So this is the result, and you can see it from inside the program. You can also see both the video and the data frame. So this is a screenshot from the video, from the program, sorry. And as you can see, so you can move through both the data frame and the video, and you always have visual feedback in both. Meaning that when you make a change in the target's coordinates, you can see how it's impacting your data frame and reciprocal. You can also identify your animals. So you can just give ID to the animals that have a sense to you. For instance, in that case, I wanted to have a focal individual because it's in fact the one I'm really interested in, but I also want to know the coordinates of the other because I want to know with who my focal individual is interacting. So I can, from inside the program, tell this one is the focal, meaning that later when I do the analysis, well, from the analysis, I will have the row named this is focal individual, and I don't have to play between looking at the video and the data to know who is who. Now, to correct the errors themselves, well, there is in fact not a single error. There is a lot of different kind of errors in tracking programs. The first one, which is quite common with AnimalTA, is extremely common, I'm afraid, is if you are working with a lot of animals in the same arena, you will have what we call identity swap, which is when two individuals are crossing. Well, in fact, with AnimalTA, this will happen if you're working with fish or with flying animals, which can overlap. So if they overlap, you will get this kind of problem that the program won't be able to really follow the trajectory and will consider that there is a swap in their identity. But to correct that with the program is very easy. You just click on the first individual, hold shift and click on the second individual, and the trajectories will be instantaneously swapped back for the frame you are watching, but also for all the rest of the video. So it can be very fast to fix this kind of problem. You have also the possibility to correct frame by frame. So this is basically just you go to the problematic frame and tell the program, no, the target is not here, it's there. So you just can move the target or just create it where it's supposed to be. And you can also do an interpolation. So if your target is lost for a short amount of time, or when for a duration during which the target was moving in a straight line, for instance, you can just select the problematic part and tell the program, from this part to this part, let's consider that the target was moving in a straight line. So that's another way to correct. And finally, the last one, which I believe is quite useful, is that you have the probability to redo a little part of your tracking. And this can be quite useful if you are doing long videos. For instance, if I'm working with a 5-hour recording, and that in the middle of my video, I have a problem with the tracking for 1 minute. I want to fix that problem, but fixing a whole minute by end is quite time consuming. And I don't want to rerun the 5-hour video because it's very long, and because maybe also it's very difficult to find parameters that would allow to fix both this little 1 minute problem and my 5 hours. So what I can do is select the problematic minutes, and then the program will allow me to separate it from the rest of the video, to set new parameters, to redo the tracking on only these little minutes, and then to integrate back in the original video. So now you will have the whole tracking corrected without the need to rerun the 5 hours video. Finally, because we wanted an AnimalTA to be user-friendly, so it's also doing some analysis and allow the user to get directly the data and not only coordinates. So even if the coordinates are always accessible, they are all stored, but still you can also do the analysis. So the first kind of analyses are the basic one, let's say, which are relative to individuals' trajectories. For instance, AnimalTA for each individual will tell you the moving speed, the mean value, and the proportion of time your individual spent moving. It also will tell you the distance traveled and, well, some other variables related to individual's trajectory. But as I said before, we were interested in proposing something that would be very flexible and that could adapt to the need of everyone. So we also added the possibility to include elements of interest. For instance, in this picture, so I added some points in the middle of the arena because I was interested in knowing whether my damselfly larvae were entering this central arena or not. So you can do that. You can also create personalized shape. So here I have, in fact, under the yellow shapes, we have foot patch. And I wanted to know how much time my ants spent inside this foot patch. So I can just draw on the top of the video. I have a tool, I draw my shapes, and then the program will tell me the data regarding what happened with these shapes. You can also create a line. So this is the boldness assay of fish, and we were interested in knowing how much time, well, the latency before the fish cross this purple line for the first time. So the program will tell you this latency, but also how much time the fish crossed, in which direction, and the average distance between the fish and the line. And well, these are a lot of little examples. I will now show you. Oh, sorry, I forgot the last one, the border. So you can also measure, because it's a classical way of measuring boldness in some animals, is to measure the time they spend close to the border of the arena. So you can also add the border as an element. And now we can also combine all these different elements together inside the same video, and you can personalize themselves. So here is an example of one of our users. So thank you very much to them who accepted to share this video. And they are doing so experiments with mouse. So you have here typical Morris water maze, and a Y maze. And as you can see, you really have something that's defined by you. You can put your point of interest wherever you want. You can use the shape you want, the size you want. It's really flexible to a lot of different studies, I believe. We are also working with the exploration. So we have two ways of measuring the exploration with AnimalTA. The first one is through the usage of grids. So it's quite classical. It's been done in a lot of studies. And the idea is just that AnimalTA will separate the arena in cells of similar size. You can either use circular grids like that one, or rectangular, rectangular but with square shaped grids. And the program will just count how much cells have been entered by the individuals. And we have also another method, which is called individual centered, in which we will consider that the animals are exploring around them. And so the program will do exactly what you see here. It will like draw all the position in which the individual was. And then it will calculate the proportion of pixels that are here colored in red, which represent the proportion of area that have been explored by the individual. And of course, the size of this exploration value can be changed by the user. You can determine the size you are interested in. We can also work with multiple individuals in the same arena. So AnimalTA will give you information such as the group cohesion, as you can see here. But also it will give you data that could be used, for instance, for network analysis, such as the occurrences of interaction, so how frequently two individuals are seen close to each other, the between individual distance, and the time they spent in contact. In that case, it's only two individuals, but you can do that with, I think the program is set up for up to 100 of individuals inside the same arena. And finally, so one thing, as I said before, we wanted to make the program that the fact that it's user-friendly is very important for us. So to make it user-friendly, we have several things. The first one is the existence of an information panel that you can see here. And inside this panel, at all the time during the process, you have information about what you are doing now, what you need to do next, and what are the specific options. For instance, here, if you see that I put my video on the question about the frame rate, it explains me what this button will do. So that's a first way to make it user-friendly. Well, of course, there is absolutely no coding, and there is only interface, and there is a Windows installer, meaning that it's the same as installing Word or a video game. It's just you just click on the installer and it will be done automatically. We also have guidelines, which are not limited to explaining how the program is working, but also the concept behind the program. So for instance, I cannot stop my video, okay. So for instance, here in this, I explain what the scale is, but also why you need, so of course, how you do the scale inside the program, but also why you need to do the scale, what are the advantage of doing the scale, what are the problem of not doing it, and so on. So it's not only guidelines about AnimalTA, it's guideline about general tracking system. There are also some video tutorials that you can find in YouTube. So each of them is explaining part of the program, how to install, how to prepare your video, and so on. And one last thing, that the program is available in 5 different languages. So the idea of that is that we believe that probably because this program is very simple and is supposed to be also, it can be, let's say it can be used as a tool as a pedagogic tool to teach what is tracking, how do we collect data about animals, and so on. So the idea that maybe this program will also be used by students. And for an undergrad students, bachelor students, it's sometimes difficult to have good English skills. And so for this reason, we tried to propose several languages. Our main limitation here is that translators are quite expensive. So they are my own languages, some of my friends, and after I was hoping that maybe we could have like a kind of collaborative work, and there is a possibility for the user to propose their own translation. So for instance, if you're a professor, let's say in Italy, and that you want your students to be able to use the program in Italian, well, you can contact me and tell me I'm ready to make the translation, and I would be very happy to add as much languages as people want to. Note, so that was all about the program, I believe. We have still a lot of limitations with this program, I believe, like all the others. The first and the main limitation is the fact that AnimalTA is very basic. The truth is that I was listening yesterday to the presentation of Alfonso about ID Tracker and how it was a revolution. He created something new. He proposed something that no one thought was possible. Well, AnimalTA is not that at all. There is absolutely nothing new in AnimalTA, but there is everything is put together. AnimalTA is a complete tool that I believe we were missing, who is allowing people to do very simple stuff. There is no, from a technical point of view, there is nothing new, but it's just putting things together to make them accessible to the majority of people. But because of that, so we don't have very complex tools, and we have a lot of limitation. The first one is that AnimalTA won't work in crowded situations. So if you have in a situation like that one, you cannot do a tracking with AnimalTA. It also needs a fixed background. So in that case, for instance, you see that there is the shadows on the tree. You cannot do a tracking either. And one last but important limitation is that, as I told you, when two individuals are crossing like these two fish, we often have problems of identity swap. But we are working on improving the program and proposing new options and maybe trying to fix little by little the limitations. And the first update that will come in the beginning of next year, I hope, is the possibility to track a variable number of targets. Because for the moment, we were tracking only non-numbered, so 10 ends in a petri dish. So this function will allow to do this kind of thing. So this is from AnimalTA. These videos are from the next update of AnimalTA. It's not yet publicly available, but it's a kind of thing you will be able to do. This is another example of bumblebee. You can see that can enter and leave on social spiders on the right. Another new feature that we plan to do is to add the possibility to track with a colored background. So you can see here the difference. So thank you very much to Peter who shared this video with us. So he had the problem of having mites whose color was different from the background, but the value, so once transformed in grayscale, the mites were the same color, the same value as the black lines here. So they were definitely lost each time they were crossing these lines. And with the new feature, we won't have this problem anymore. We will also have the possibility to create this kind of donut-shaped arena, which are arenas with empty holes inside them. And the idea is also to implement a Kalman filter, which should help to limit this kind of problem by creating a prediction of the future position of the target. In conclusion, so AnimalTA is a program that's been done to work with complex video, but complex in the sense that they have been recorded in difficult conditions. They have several problems that are difficult to solve, but they are quite basic. That's the origin of the program. But we also realized that despite its simplicity, AnimalTA was still able to work with challenging tasks. So you can see here, for instance, so these are also done with AnimalTA. In the left, you have some termites, in the right, some Drosophilus, and you can see that it's still working. Well, I have a lot of people that I'd like to remember to acknowledge all the people who sent me their videos to try the program, to test it, but also to illustrate this presentation, the beta tester and the translators, and of course, all the organizers of the Animal Behavior Live. And if I have time, I like to make a very short demonstration of the program. And I think I have time. So the idea is that I cannot explain everything because we don't have time. So we'll just track 5 videos right now and show you how simple and fast this can be. So the first thing, so this is AnimalTA open. I will create a new project in which I want to test the social behavior of fish. So let's call it sociality fish. It's not very original, but it's done. So my project is now created and I will just add videos. So I prepared my 5 videos here, open the videos, and now my videos are in my project. I can have a look at each of them. I won't change the frame rate here, but I want to crop them because I'm interested only in the first 30 seconds. So now my video is cropped to set 30 seconds, validate, and I will do the same for all of them. I know that my video does not have tremor, so I can skip that step and go directly to the background. I will do the background for all my videos. And now you see that it created an image. So this is the original video. You see that we have a fish in the left part of the arena. And by creating the background, it just removed the moving individuals. So this background has been done properly, this one too. But here you can see that the fish didn't move. So I need to change my background because the fish hasn't been removed by the program. And I will just do it manually. So it's not more complex than that. It's done. And we can continue. This one is correct. This one is correct. So my backgrounds are ready. The arenas, I have to indicate where my fish are located. So I'm interested only in that part of, only in that part of the video. I can do the same for my other image. So I know, because I'm the one who made the tracking, that the 2 videos were recorded in slightly different conditions because the camera was moved between 1 and 2, but it's the same for 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I can now apply the same arenas for 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can also have a look that it's been done properly, and it seems to be okay. I can define a scale, so I know that for all my recordings, this distance equals 30 centimeter. Validate, and once again I apply this to all my videos, and all my videos are ready. I can go to prepare the tracking. So the first thing the program will do is to convert to grayscale, then to define a threshold. So the threshold is used, so you have to set the parameters so that your fish is always visible like this and you don't have too many noise. So this is a good threshold. We see that the video is already correct like this. We see the fish very well all the time, so we don't need the supplementary features. We can go directly to the arena. So I set a minimum value to tell everything that's smaller than this area is not a fish, and everything that's bigger than this arena is not a fish. So you can do it by try and error. Here I know exactly the size of my fish, so it's easy. If you don't know, you just move, play with the cursor. You see that if I go too far, my fish disappear. So I just have to find the perfect windows. The distance threshold indicates how much my fish can move between 2 frames of the video. Usually I advise to take something that's already much bigger than what you need in real life. And finally, the number of individuals inside my arena. There is only 1 individual, so I leave it like this and I validate. And now I can once again apply these parameters to all my video. Validate. I'm ready, I can do the tracking. So I select all my video, do the tracking, and the program is running. So as you can see, it's relatively fast. So these are only 30 seconds videos. But still, I think the program will need in total about 40 seconds. It's 5 times faster than the real video. But well, okay, it's 10 times faster than the real videos, but it depends a lot on the quality of the video and the power of your computer and the number of targets and so on. So my trackings are done. I can now have a look to how it went. So here is my first video. The program is telling me that there is no missing value, meaning that he was able to track the fish for the whole video without problem. I can check all my videos like this. So this one has no problem either. Okay. Perfect. And my last one. So as you see, we had no problem. In case of problem, you can do as I explained before, you can change. For instance, I can correct and tell no, this is not a good position with that one. There is, well, all the possibilities I presented before, but I unfortunately don't have enough time to explain everything. So all my trackings are done, and I will finally add the analysis. And in that case, I'm interested in knowing the latency before this fish enter this arena here. So I will go in the spatial repartition, add an element. I'm interested in a border. So I'm interested in this border, and I want to know what happens when the fish enter at 5 centimeters from this border. This is for my first video. I want to apply that for all my videos. Validate, return to main menu, save, and it's done. I can run my analysis, select, validate, and it's done. I can now go back in my project folder, and you will see that in the results, I can get all the values I was looking for. So the program is now telling me that in my first video, the fish entered, let's have a look, see if it worked. That in the first video, my fish entered after 5 seconds and 5.56 seconds, which is here. So we see that we are quite good. In fact, we can even do like this. So tells us, so 5.56, as you can see, this is correct. Well, I won't do it for all of them, but that the second one, it arrived very late, and that the next one, it didn't even enter the area of interest, and it's indeed the case. So of course, I don't expect anyone to be able to understand everything just with what I showed. The idea was to just demonstrate how fast and rapid it can be to do the analysis. Well, I think that's all for me. I just like to thank you very much to all of you for being here, to listening to me, for the organizer. And I will be on the Discord if you have any question, or the YouTube chat, maybe ask question.
Thanks a lot, Violette. Very detailed talk. That was very interesting. So far we did not receive any question, but I can start with some from me. So it's really cool, like the new feature that you will add about the color background. I was wondering if you were planning also on hiding maybe an option of hiding zone or these kind of things, like just a zone that your animal can hide, and so like the software that will consider that okay, the animal is here even if I am not seeing the animal.
Yeah, that's no. The program is not. It's a good idea. Okay, I can work on that. It's for the moment.
It's just because I know that, for instance, in rodents or like in which you have an environment with a lot of little housing for the animal to hide. Sometimes you would like to know that okay, my animal stay inside this zone even though I'm not able to track it.
So this happened to me. What I advise to the people who, well, it happened to me once. So I advise to the person who did that. What you can do is you create an arena of interest that's a little bit bigger than your hiding zone.
Mm-hmm.
So the target is detected just before it enters, and just before it, and just after, and so that the program has the transition, the entrance and the left, and then it will consider that all the time the animal was missing, it was inside this arena.
Okay, so like you already have this hiding zone then. It's because it was this that I was thinking, but because I like you explained at first, I thought that the software, when it was not able to track, it was considering it was not in the area. But okay, yeah.
No, if you see entering the arena and leaving it later, it will consider that during all the missing time it was inside.
Okay, great to know.
This will be for the next update. For the moment, it's not like this, but it will be the case for the next update.
And regarding these color background things, you like because you show an example with a small black line, for instance, you think that it will work with a bigger object?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah,
sorry, it's not dependent on the object. So the
okay.
size and this kind of stuff are not impacted. I can go take the video is here. So it's exactly the same functioning of the background, except that instead of comparing just the value, so in the case of the background, you compare the two grays, and here you compare the three colors.
Okay.
The only difference is that in that case, well, of course, you can solve this kind of problem, but it's a bit slower to process because the program has a bit more color to calculate, but it's minimum difference. It's very small difference.
Okay. Yeah, great. No, that's a cool feature. So like we receive a message from Jojo May, uh, first saying thanks for the great presentation. The question arises as to whether you can track several body parts of an animal at the same time in one video.
No, this is something for other program, but AnimalTA is way too simple to do that. It would be super interesting, but to do that, you need another level. Usually you need artificial intelligence. And it means also that it's not that generalistic because the head of a mouse is not the same as the head of an ant. So it would be very different and much more complex, I guess, to do that. But I know that there are very good tracking programs who propose that. Like you can go in the deep lab cut, maybe Sleep is doing that as well. So
Yeah.
there are other very good tracking programs who do that, but it's more complex and it's not inside AnimalTA's abilities for now.
I believe the software we are receiving this afternoon, Sleep, is actually also specialized in this kind of feature. So we have another comment from AB George saying a great presentation. Is AnimalTA, sorry, I keep saying AnimalTA.
You can tell it.
Is AnimalTA able to maintain ID across videos? Or do you plan to add this feature in the future?
Yes and no. For instance, in the video that's displayed now, you can see that the ID is maintained. So there is 6 mites and there is no problem. If I have the video of the 10 ants in which I wrote that there was a focal individual, there is no problem. But if there might be identity swap. So if you have an identity swap, the program won't correct it by itself, like an ID tracker or a tox track or these programs who include the identity corrections. AnimalTA doesn't have identity correction. So when there is a mistake, there is a mistake, and the mistake is propagating. But if you have non-crossing individuals, like the mites, for instance, they won't climb on top of each other. So if you have this kind of individuals, the number of mistakes is very low. Well, it depends on the quality of the recording, the conditions and everything. But usually the number of mistakes is quite low as long as the individuals are not walking on the top of each other or swimming above each other like fish or birds or 3D space is messy.
So we receive another message from Raphael Durshade. I hope that I said it properly. Do you have any statistics on how often the tracking ID might accidentally switch between animals, swapping animals A and B by accident?
Well, I'm afraid it's not really possible because it depends a lot of your video. I know that, for instance, in that mite experiment over the 5 minutes of the whole video that Peter gave me, it never happened. But I know that in others, I tried it with fish, and over 1 minute video, I had, I think it was 14 identity swap. But if you had the same video with a different resolution, you would have different results. And if you have the same video with another species of fish, you would have different results. So it's not really possible. The only thing you can do is to compare, is to run this with the program and compare with what another program would have. And so the program who does not add the correction of the identity. So for instance, if we compare with ID tracker is much better for that. It will follow the identity, but not our. If you compare with T-Rex, you have the same. But if you compare with program who has not this correction, we are the same level, more or less, of problem. Of
Yeah, thanks for your answer. I have a last question that is more technical, let's say. Um, is there any maximum limit of video that you could implement in your project before maybe the software has an issue to compile everything?
Probably, but I never reached it. So I tried with 1,000 video. They were all 3 minutes long, and
Yeah,
the
you say
duration of the
1,000?
video is like 1,000.
Ah, yeah, so like, I mean, it's already a
Yeah,
good number.
and you can always do two projects. There is a possibility to copy the parameter of one project to another. So if you really have a full amount of video, you can also do two projects and just copy one video from one to the other, and then copy all the parameters of this first video to the others. So
Okay. And yeah, I guess that you don't have any limitation in terms of hardware. Like you don't need to have a very powerful computer.
no. The only difference is that, well, if you have a not powerful computer, it will be slower. So, but it will work.
Okay. So we receive all the comments. Engmar31, thanks for a great piece of software. Is there a way to extract frames sequences where ID swapping likely happen? This would allow for faster quality control checks.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and it's not the first time that someone tell me that. It will be in the next update. I didn't present all the feature of the next update. It will be there. For the moment, it's not, but it will be.
Okay, so Engmar31, stay tuned for the update. And we have another comment from Raphael Dursteid again. Do you have plans to have the identity correction in place? Maybe plans to have a model on of how the animal move? What are your plans and funding to support AnimalTA going forward? So it's two independent questions, but
Okay, so AnimalTA is for the moment at least is a very personal project. So as you can see, in the author we are only two. It's me and my previous supervisor, and I'm the one doing the coding. So regarding the funding, there is absolutely nothing. So it also takes me a lot of time when we are doing an update. It means that I have my research. I'm not a developer, so it's also the time that I spend on improving. But I'm a bit waiting because as the program is quite new, for the moment we have only two citations, but which is quite normal because the program has been released 1 year ago. But I'd like to see how much it's useful to people. If really I have the feeling that people are using the program, that it's useful, then I believe I will begin to invest more time and maybe try to get grants or try to get more funding to work on that and to begin to build a team, not be me in my in my room doing that. And the first question was about the possibility to implement
identity correction.
Yeah. So this is something, I know it's possible and it exists, but for the moment, no. Not for next year update. Maybe in 2 years. I know it's something that I would like to do. I have some long-term plans that I will do if I see that there is enough interest from the people. The first one is this one, indeed, to add identity correction, something that would be similar to what ID Tracker is doing, to what ToxTrack is doing. So that's the first thing that I would like to do in the future. One would be to integrate artificial intelligence to be able to track animals even in natural background. So this problem about the shadow on the trunk and would be fixed. And 3D track would be also quite interesting because I have a lot of users who ask me, can I do 3D tracking? And for the moment, it's not the case at all. It's quite
was
complex.
one of my question actually. But because like you actually said, and I really appreciated this feature that you say that you invite people to propose the translation to have their own language. I find it quite cool. But like, would you maybe in close or far future consider to open source the software in order to potentially have people starting to develop their own module, and like this you kind of win some more time for you like on development?
It's already the case. It's on
It's
GitHub.
already open source. Okay.
It's open source. It's on GitHub. You can access the code. You can fork it. So
like just a question of time, basically, like for people to actually maybe develop some of the feature that you don't have time to develop yourself.
yeah, the problem is that I'm not sure there is a lot of people who are using this program who also have the ability to improve it. What I mean is that, because really I it's my advice for the people who are listening to me, if you really want a super good quality tracking with no swap of identity, with super nice, don't use AnimalTA. You can, if you know how to code, if you know how to do complex things, maybe you don't need AnimalTA, except if you want to work fast and you don't have time to lose, maybe it can be useful. But if you have very complex video, I would just advise to go toward more complex programs that are more efficient. But well, of course, if there is some people who are listening us right now and who are interested in improving AnimalTA, for me, I'm welcoming any suggestion, of
Yeah,
course.
that's what I was about to say. It's a good moment to make a call. Like if you guys are good in coding and that you are interested in doing things on AnimalTA, like it's open source. So
I also advise people to just contact me.
Yeah, it's
if you
better
want
before,
to.
like I would say.
Well, it's not mandatory because it's open source, so you do whatever you want. But I mean, if you contact me, we can make it official also.
Yeah. And so I think we'll go for the very last question again from Raphael. Have you had any thought on how to utilize the fancy new LLMS in AnimalTA or generally in the field?
Honestly, I have no idea what this is.
So like, I guess, so like Raphael, could you maybe say what is LLMS? Because I'm not sure either. I thought that it was maybe just some statistic.
Seems, but maybe we can discuss that in the Discord if you can give me a bit
So like,
more.
Raphael, I will invite you to just go discuss with Violette in a dedicated channel, if it's good with you. And we will end this session, I mean, not the session, but this talk here. Thanks a lot, Violette. That
Thank
was
you very
really
much.
nice.
Thank you.
Have a good day.